of the Khoja, Shia, Asheri Muslim communities and the challenges facing our community, to be delivered by Shani Abbas Hashim, the Secretary General of the World Federation. Can we welcome with salawat, please?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي شهري صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My dear respected elders, brothers and sisters, Salamun Alaikum. The Holy Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, after the birth of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, told Bibi Fatima, he was very upset after seeing the birth of Imam Hussein. He told Bibi Fatima that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create a nation who will mourn for Hussein, a nation whose men and youth will mourn for the young and old of Hussein's family, whose women will remember the sacrifice of the ladies of Hussein's family, and whose children will remember the sacrifice of the children of Hussein. Let us reflect for a minute. Not only were we lucky to be born as Muslims, we were so fortunate to be born as Shia Ithna Muslims. And that further, I will explain in the next week's series, we were lucky to be born as Khoja Shia Ithna Muslims. Today, I want to spend a little bit of time to shed some light on a story that some commentators describe as pure destiny, some that describe it as a calling to the right path, and others a mere fluke. Whatever the case, this 100-year-old history is a story of our faith, an evolution in our thinking, and about migration. Next week, we will look at the modern-day history of the Khoja Shia Ithna community, and more importantly, about the challenges that we face going forward. So that's the background. Why is it important to understand our Khoja Shia Ithna community, and what sacrifices have taken place? Right, the Khoja Shia Ithna community. The community is spread over 5 continents and we number less than 120,000. No data or census has been carried out totally, but it's between 110 to 150,000. Most people say it's 120,000. If that's the case, well, the entire Shia community around the world is 200 million, as you can see on the slides. That means we form less than 0.6 of the entire worldwide Shia community. Yet our influence, our reputation, our recognition, and the recognition of our institutions is much, much more than this number. The question is that still going to be the case in the future? On the next slide, you'll see the Khoja in a snapshot. Sorry, this is the one. And this explains to us where we are all part of the world. I can't see the slide in detail from here, but it looks like we have 40,000 Khojas in Pakistan. 1/4 out of every Khoja Shia Ithna is from Pakistan. We have 21,000 in India, spread in Gujarat, Kutch, and Mumbai. Majority population being in Gujarat, only 400 or 500 in Kutch, 400 or 500, maybe a little bit more in Mumbai. In Africa, it's across those countries, but mostly East Africa, particularly Tanzania and Kenya. Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo has very, very small populations, as does Mozambique. South Africa only has a handful of families. The same with Malawi, Zambia as well. Zimbabwe has a few more. Indian Ocean Islands, well, we have 6,500 Khojas in the Indian Ocean Islands, vast majority of them in Madagascar, about 5,500 in Madagascar. In the UK, we have 10,000. In Canada, we have 8. In US, we have 3. And then you have the rest of the world. So the majority of the Khoja Shia Ithna community is still based in the subcontinent, in India, in Pakistan, and then we have very sizable population in North America, Africa, and Europe as well. So what are the Khoja origins? Well, there are so many different theories. If you go and study this, and there have been some modern studies done, there are very many theories. There's some theories that actually we are descendants of Armenian Indians. The word Khoja in Armenian culture means respect. So you have so-and-so being Khoja so-and-so. So for example, Khoja, Muslim Khoja, means that you have a respected person, happens to also be called Muslim Khoja as well. It's a word for respect. A Muslim uncle, don't take it too far. But actually, when you look properly into our history, and some fantastic work has been done in the last 5 or 10 years, Khojas are an ethnic Indo group from Kutch, Kathiawar, and Sindh. These are the 3 main places where we originate. And originally, we were known as Thakas. Islam first came to India in the 12th century, although many historians say that Islam came well before. It didn't. It mainly came in the 12th century. Historians will say, Orientalists will say that Islam came through conquest. Actually, that's not the case. Islam mainly came through trade. Trade with Iran and trade with the Gulf. And that's where Islam first came to India. And what I really wanted to say was, although you will see in India, there's so many Shias in Lucknow, so many Shias in other parts of India, it wasn't they who converted us. We were first different. So you've got there the different India class system. The top are the Brahmins, they're the priest class. In Hinduism, you have a caste system. I'm sure all of us here understand how that works. In a priority social order. The highest priority were the Brahmins, the second were Kshatriya, then the Vaishya and Sudra. Now, where do we come from? Well, actually, we are Luhanas or Luvanas, and this Luhana is a subcaste, most people say, of the Vasya, i.e. the commoners or merchant class. That is where we come from. And this caste is mainly from Sindh, Punjab, Kutch, and Kathiawar. Majority came from Sindh, Kutch, and Kathiawar. Punjab was very, very few. There are 3 subsections of Luhanas, Sindhi Luhanas, Kutchi, and Gujarati Luhanas. I don't really want to go into today to the background of Luhanas, but it's very, very important to understand how our culture came about. For example, there's a theory that Luhanas are descendants of Caucasian or Aryan and Indian mix. Not pure Indian, if you go right back into history, but I don't think we have the time now to go into that itself. So, where does the word Khoja come from? Well, a common theory that is used in books is that actually it's the influence of Armenians who traded in India. And the word Khoja, as we said earlier, giving the example of Muslim Khoja, meant respect. In the book, History of the Armenians in India, it talks about a number of individuals, Khoja so-and-so, for example, Khoja Petrus Wiskin, Khoja Yusuf Baba, Khoja Alim Baba, etc., etc. But I'm going to suggest that we are not actually from the Armenian side, and that it just happens to be a coincidence that the word Khoja was used for that. There are some historians who suggest that actually we are descendants of Parsis, Zoroastrians. Maybe they could be our forefathers. But again, due to many people who have gone into this, it doesn't seem that's very likely. It doesn't seem that to be likely. In fact, our history, brothers and sisters, is linked totally, completely, absolutely to the Ismaili sect, as Luhana Ismailis. Amir Ali, in The Spirit of Islam, A History and Evolution, writes, on the western coast of India, there exists, however, a large community of Khojas, who are the direct representatives of the original Eastern Ismailis. Hindu by origin, they were converted to Ismailism in the 11th or 12th century of the Christian era by one Pir Sadruddin, an Ismaili Dai. In a recent paper by Sayyid Mujtaba Ali entitled The Origins of Khojas and Their Religious Life Today, he records that Sadr al-Adin was sent to India as head of the Kashmir, Sindh and Punjabi Ismailis, and that Shams ad-Din converted the Luhanas to the Ismaili faith, who, according to the tribal legends preserved by the Khojas, are descended from Lava, the eldest son of Rama, and the founder of the tribes of the Rathods, who the Luhana belong. So there's a lot of this, and a lot of background as well if you go into it, and if you want to further research, a lot of primary books which suggest that we have come completely from the Luhana sect. Sayyid Mujtaba, and I'm just going now into a bit too much detail, but it's good nonetheless. Sayyid Mujtaba concludes in his book that the title Khoja was the Persian for Khawaja, meaning Lord, which they received on conversion to Islam by Pir Sadruddin. And originally we were then Thakers. Mihir Bose, who has written a lot of work, particularly one book which is on the history of the Ismailis, he tells us that the word Khoja means the honorable, worshipful converts. Some commentators don't agree fully that from the caste system we were from the Luhana subcaste. Many say that we were from the lower castes, or some of us were from the lower castes, and that because people were changing their religion, some people were opportunistic and changed their religion as well, just to be like the Luhanas. So there's many historians who to say that as well. And one of this is Badru Daya, who is an Ismaili anthropologist. He says, the majority of Khoja converts were low Hindus who converted to improve their social and economic status. Conversion was carried out through persuasive, peaceful means. In terms of languages, Khojas either speak Gujarati, Sindhi or Kutchi. Kutchi is only obviously a spoken language. In addition, some 300-400 years ago, there used to be a language called Khojki. Khojki, which is a variation of Sindhi, but that is, of course, hardly ever used today. In the course of time, the Khojas organized 3 different jamaats, 3 different sects. First was the Sunni Khoja, known as the Barbaya. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on. The second was the Ishnashri Khoja, and the majority, still today the majority, is the Nizari Ismaili Khoja. There were other groups who in India converted into Shiaism. For example, the Momnas, the Kunbis, the Shamsis, etc., etc. But these were not Luanas. They were non-Luana castes. Momna, for example, converted at the same time as the Khojas, and they formed their own Jamaats later on. For example, in Gujarat, there's the Khoja Shia Ishnashri Momin Jamaat. In Pakistan, there's the Khoja Shia Ishnashri Jamaat, a Momin Jamaat of Karachi. But these communities are now assimilated totally into the Khoja community. Another group that converted at the same time from Gujarat are the Musta'ali Ismaili. Now they are known as the Dawoodi Bohora. They are from the same caste, they are Luana caste as well, but for some reason they are not described as being Khoja. So let us look at the initial Khoja faith and look at this in a bit more detail. Various Ismaili teachers known as Dais had come to India to teach the locals about their religion. A religion that was a mix, a mishmash between Hinduism and Ismailism. The mix included a belief of reincarnation of certain Hindu and Muslim figures. The most famous one, and the one that I really want you to take away from here, is Pir Sadruddin, who in some textbooks is called Pir Sadruddin al-Husseini, who was a 14th century Ismaili Dai, and who is known to be the founder of the Khoja Ismaili sect. His version of the religion is called Satpanth, which means true path. He was born in Iran and traveled to India. Now, Satpanth still exists today. If you can type this in YouTube or in Google, you will see that a lot of people still in India, there's a sizable population who follow this religion, Satpanth. And we'll go into a little bit more detail what this religion was about. Pir's grandson writes, and a person called Sayyid Imam Shah writes, Pir Sadruddin organized the community and openly established the Jamaat Khana in his house. Having arrived in the village of Kotda, he established the first Jamaat Khana. Pir Sadruddin changed Hindus into Muslims, converting Loanas into Khojas, the true faith. Now, Pir Sadruddin had mastered the Hindu literature, the beliefs and the mythology, and compared the Hindu doctrines to Islam. And he showed this in some of his books. For example, Atar Veda, which is a well-known book, and Alopanishad and other books as well. And he even started composing hymns called jinans, which are used to this day. His book was basically about Hindu-Muslim beliefs and a mishmash, mix of the two beliefs. So, for example, his ninth volume book was on the story of Buddha and how he was reincarnated into Vishnu. Now, his 10th avatar was about Imam Ali being reincarnated into Vishnu. As we'll see later on, our religion was similar to Nusairism, in that we believe that Buddha and Imam Ali and Vishnu were God. That was our religion principally back then. This is why later on, when the Khoja Ismailis happened to visit Karbala out of luck, it shocked the mujtahids of the time that the Khoja believed in this particular religion. Still today, this religion of Satpanth exists, and people still believe that Imam Ali is the 10th reincarnation of Vishnu, and number 9 is Buddha, etc., etc. Right, signs of discord. Basically, the Khojas at the time were based in Kathiawar, Kutch and Sindh, but they were also traveling to the main cities. The main cities at the time were Mumbai and Karachi as well. And the first signs of discord began in the 19th century, when certain members of the Khoja Ismaili sect, as it was then, were excommunicated but later reintegrated. Right. The reasons why they were excommunicated was because they didn't want to pay the religious tax. Now, in Ismailism, there's a 12.5% levy on income. 10% belongs to the Aga Khan, 2.5% is to the poor. And basically, the Khoja Ismailis at the time, being Khojas, being very money conscious, didn't want to pay this 10%. And look, 10% na barwantu. Whatever excuse they didn't want to pay. Many of them were very upset that a foreign Iranian Aga Khan had come to India and asked and demanded this. And when they were not going to give this, they were going to be excommunicated. So the first lot were excommunicated in 1829, and they were known as the Barbaya. These are 12 people excommunicated, taken out of the Khoja Ismaili community. And they later were reintegrated and later re-excommunicated, and they formed the Khoja Sunni sect, and they're still there today, and they're still known as Barbaya until today. Khoja Sunni is like, for example, there's a Khoja Sunni mosque. If you've been to Mumbai, there's one very near Pala Gali, near our mosque, that is still known as the Barbaya mosque, and until today they are still there, but there are only about 20,000 Khoja Sunnis. The first two Khoja Shia Ishnashris Later on they became Khoja, Shia, Ishnashris. But the first two was Dewji Jamal and Alarakia Wali. Both who were excommunicated in Mumbai, and they fled to Zanzibar in 1877. Yes, Barbaya. So it's on the screen about them. There are a small number worldwide, only 20,000. Right, affinity towards Karbala. When people analyze our history, they say we have a special affinity to Karbala. We have one affinity because of Imam Hussein and the sacrifice of Imam Hussein and the fact that that helped spread the Shia madhab. The second affinity is because we only converted because of Karbala, and I'll explain that to you now. One of the key figures in the history of our community is Mullah Qadir Hussain, called now Mullah Qadir Hussain Karbala. He was from Madras. He was originally Shia, and he had gone to Iraq to study in the Hawza for further Islamic education. At that time, it was in Karbala, not in Najaf. And he described in his autobiography, he says, there was once a group of pilgrims from Zanzibar. These pilgrims were Khoja by caste, and there was a young man called Nur Muhammad in that group. My pupil Habib Abji also came with them. One day Nur Muhammad came to see me with Habib. After Habib introduced him, he said that Nur Muhammad was very keen to learn about the Quran. Please make him your pupil. Nur Muhammad stayed there for 1 year, and he learned the Quran under Mullah Qadir Hussain. One day, Mullah Qadir Hussain, he recalled in his biography, he said, one day I began to describe the merits of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and suddenly Nur Muhammad asserted, Khoja, I believe Ali is God. He was stunned. What do you mean by calling Ali God? Nur Muhammad explained about his 46 gods, and Ali was the 10th reincarnation of God. Mullah was shocked. He told him off, and he took him straight away to the marja of the time, Ayatollah Zainul Abidin Mazandarani, and the other ulama there, and he told them about these Khoja beliefs. After 1 year, Nur Muhammad left, and he went to Kadhamain for ziyarat. As he was in Kadhamain, he met Hashim Bhai Dosa, and he told Hashim Bhai Dosa, Hashim Bhai, go and see this Mullah Qadir Hussain. He will teach you something about religion. Hashim Bhai went. He met Mullah Qadir Hussain, and with him was another very influential character in this story, Dewji Jamal. Dewji Jamal was a young businessman. He had a strong business in Zanzibar, and he'd been excommunicated from Karbala. When Mullah Qadir Hussain Karbala, and this is such an important quote, met Dewji Jamal, he asked Dewji Jamal, what brings you to Karbala? Dewji Jamal replied, fate, luck, destiny. When Mullah Qadir Hussain Karbala prodded him further, Dewji Jamal replied that they had set out for Hajj, but along the way they heard that Karbala would give them 70 times the benefit of Hajj. Now these are truly Khoja. Not only they don't want to pay dasan, they want 70 times the reward as well. And because of that, they had changed the direction and had gone to Karbala instead. Mullah Qadir explained to him that one is wajib and the other one is sunnah as well. But brothers and sisters, this meeting between Mullah Qadir Hussain in Karbala and Dewji Jamal, as well as the later meeting with Ayatollah Mazandarani, is the one single turning point in the history of our Khoja Shia Ishnashri community. Dewji Jamal spent a few days with Mullah Qadir Hussain, but he wanted to return back to Zanzibar. Dewji Jamal realized that he had loved this religion, but there was no way of communicating this religion to the other Khoja Ismaili community. So he asked Mullah Qadir Hussain to come with him to Zanzibar. Mullah Qadir Hussain said no. As a result, Dewji Jamal and via others went to go and see Ayatollah Mazandarani, and they told him, why will Mullah Qadir Hussain not come with us? Ayatollah Mazandarani, Sheikh Mazandarani pushed Dewji Jamal as much as he could, and in his autobiography, pushed Mullah Qadir as much as he could, and in his autobiography talks about the use of istikhara as well, although we don't know what the result was. Ayatollah Mazandarani pushed him, and later on he told Mullah Qadir Hussain, Dewji Bhai and his community are not familiar with religion. Din mathora kachache. They have an urge for it. They want to take you with them as your teacher, and you refuse. An ignorant man seeks guidance from you, and you deny that guidance. It is my suggestion that you should go. Mullah Qadir Hussain was given an ijazah, and eventually he agreed to go back to India to help spread the madhab. However, he was very worried about two critical issues, two questions that he had in his mind. Number one, what would these new, small, short number of Khoja Shia Ishnashris do when they cannot marry the girls of the Khoja Ismaili community, since their own number is too small? They cannot marry between themselves, and they now cannot marry these kafir Khoja Ismailis. Kafir was described at the time. Number 2, what would they do when they are not permitted to bury their dead in the Khoja Ismaili cemetery? When these people who are Ismailis, ex-Ismailis, can no longer be buried with their relatives, he realized that there was going to be a lot of sacrifice in the future. In his autobiography, Mullah writes, as was planned, I started with Dewji Jamal from Karbala. From a time I began my studies, I started to teach the group of pilgrims about religion. In the course of time, I met a number of Khojas and learned from them about their religion. I deduced that the religion of the Khojas was established 500 years ago. Its founders were Pir Sadruddin and Shah Deva Joshi. The creed of this religion is the reincarnation of God. To the 9 reincarnations of Vishnu, the Hindu god, they have added Imam Ali as the 10th reincarnation. They call Ali God, like the Nusayris do, and they label themselves Shias at the same time. The Mullah Sahib went back to Bombay, and the first thing he did in Bombay was establish a madrasa. He had 15 people, 15 disciples that were eager to learn about religion from him. But he was hated in Mumbai, especially by the Khoja Ismailis. Not only did they say that this was a dangerous man, they also put a huge amount of pressure on his disciples not to follow him at all. The pressure was huge. Not only were the disciples excommunicated from the Jamaat Khana, Ismaili groups, and there were problems between the Khoja Shia Nashris, between their families and the families of the Khoja Ismailis, and in between families a lot of problems were caused as well. So much so that in his autobiography, Mullah writes, apparently Dewji Bhai has disassociated from me, but he still has huge sympathy from me. He hired a room for me in the name of Khoja Kalfan Ratansi. I transferred my residence there and began to teach the tenets of Islam. It is said that Dewji Bhai Jamal and various others had begun to practice taqiyya because they were so scared of coming out as Khoja Shia Ishnashris. Mullah took the time also to write certain books such as Chirag-e-Hidayat, which were printed with the help of people like Dewji Jamal and Khalfan Ratansi and various others as well. As time went on, Mullah became more and more popular, and people began to love this madhab. Fewer people were attending the evening breakfast at the Khoja Ismaili Center, the dinner at the Khoja Ismaili Center as well. The Jamaat Khana didn't like this at all, and a few defections had to take place. Few people left Mullah because of the fear, including the fear of death as well, and went back to the Ismaili community. So what does excommunication mean? We talk about this. Some of the Shia Ishnashris were excommunicated from the Ismaili community. Well, this meant A, they were not able to marry Khoja Ismailis or their children to marry them. They had to cut off family relations. There was economic boycott, especially when people worked for some of the Ismaili community businessmen. And most importantly, they were not able to bury their dead in the Ismaili cemetery. The Ismaili community tried to blame Mullah, but they couldn't succeed. They even told Mullah that we will kill you. Various times he was told, we will kill you. Once when he was threatened, he was noted as saying, if I am really murdered, I will become a slave of Imam Hussein. To which someone replied, but we will poison you instead. And he replied, thank God, if I die of poison, I will be a slave of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. When Dewji Jamal refused to take Mullah to Hajj, there was a point in time came when Dewji Jamal was going to Hajj, but he was so scared to be publicly associated with Mullah, he refused to take Mullah with him to Hajj, and instead went to Zanzibar. Mullah fell down. As Dewji Jamal went, he's one of the big characters and a forefather of Ibrahim Sharif Dewji. When Dewji Jamal went, Mullah Sahib fell left down, and he also suffered financially. Eventually, he was kicked out of the house of Khalfan Ratansi and had to go to another house. He was not even able to feed himself or to provide his own requirements. It is our tribute today to Mullah Qadir Hussain Karbalai that we today are practicing the Shia Ishnashri faith. He went through everything, thick and thin. He was threatened with life, with wealth, with everything at all. And we owe to him and various others, his students like Haji Naji and others, who gave their lives in the service for this community. There we have pictures of, on the left, of Haji Ghulam Ali Haji Ismail, who was known as Haji Naji popularly. He's written a lot of books, a lot of magazines. One of the most popular ones, still goes until today, is called Rahe-Najat. It still goes until today. And on the right is a picture of Dewji Jamal, who died in 1905. And incidentally, Dewji Jamal, and we will go on if we have the time, I know time is running short, but if we do, Dewji Jamal had spent a lot of wealth in making sure that Shia Ishnashri Madhab had been given. And in particular, he had paid for a qabristan in Karbala, and he had also bought a qabristan in Zanzibar to make sure that the Shia Ishnashris didn't have that dard, that pain of burying their beloved. And that leads me on nicely to the burial ground saga. Now, when Khoja Shia Ishnashris, remember there were only very few, 15, 20, 40, 50, 100 maximum, against a huge Ismaili community. And when a member of their family died, it was a big shame not to be buried in the Ismaili Mohalla, in the Ismaili cemetery. So one example was the daughter of Khalfan Ratansi who died. In the end, through the help of Mullah Qadir Hussain, they buried her at the Iranian cemetery in Mumbai, and later they moved her to Karbala, in the plot that Dewji Jamal had bought. And the same happened with Dewji Jamal. His daughter had died, and a similar incident had happened as well. In 1899, the Khoja Jamaat of Bombay got its own Qabristan, and today is known as Arambagh. Right, Bombay, Zanzibar and Karachi. These were the three main places. I want to a little bit rush because we don't have much time. These were the three main places where Khojas began to leave from Kutch, Kathiawar and Sindh. Bombay being a big city, Zanzibar being a place with a lot of trade, and Karachi the same as well. The main preacher in Karachi, by the way, was a person called Lalan al-Ladina. He did the same work that Mullah Qadir Hussain was doing in Mumbai. So he was also doing tabligh work as well. He had 4 sons. All 4 sons continued in the footsteps of their father. Right, assassinations. Much like the spread of Islam itself, a lot of people had to give away their wealth. And some people also had to give away their blood too. History records that the first Khojas that broke away were the Sunni Khojas. And they suffered at the hands of the Fedayeen. Fedayeen was the Ismaili mob. And they had killed some Sunnis, some of the early Barbayas. And one example, let me give you very briefly the example of Lalan al-Ladina. Lalan al-Ladina was a well-known Ishnashri propagator in Karachi. He was doing what Mullah Qadir Hussain was doing in Mumbai. One day, on the 18th of March, 1876, at 7 p.m., Lalan al-Ladina was on his way home from a majlis about Imam Hussain. On his way home, and he had a turban. Someone from behind struck him with a wound so deep that it had gone somewhat into the head of Lalan al-Ladina. Fortunately, there were some tasbeehs in his pagri, in his turban, and the tasbeehs had even gone into his head as well. Somehow, Lalan survived. However, 2 years later, on the 28th of February, 1878, at 9 a.m., he was shot in Karachi and wounded. 2 hours later, he died. Mullah Qadir, who was in Mumbai, heard about this, and he said, the hearts of the Khoja Shia Ishnashris of Mumbai are now pounding with fear. We don't have much time, but another important moment was when one of Mullah's students, Kilu Katau, was beaten up. He was beaten up in Mumbai. Now, Kilu became almost disabled, he became almost an invalid, and he was beaten up quite badly. After he recovered, in revenge, he stabbed the chief Mukhi of the Aga Khan, the first time a Khoja Shia Ishnashri had attacked a Khoja Shia Ismaili. And he struck this chief Mukhi with a knife. In the end, this Mukhi died. Kilu Katau admitted to it, and he was hanged. But to get revenge for what Kilu Katau had done, the Fedayeen were back. If you see, there's Alalji Sarjan and Hirji Al-Arakia. These two were killed at the hands of the Fedayeen. These are 2 Shia Ishnashris, and the other 2 were wounded at the hands of the Fedayeen. This is a photograph of Lalji Alidina Sab. it's not possible to find the photo of Lalji Alidina, but this is, his son apparently looked pretty much exactly like him. He had 4 sons, all 4 continued in tabligh work. And this is the Aga Khan prediction. This is a difficult place to put in the slide because it's really reminiscent of what the Ismailis were thinking about the Ishnashris at the time. Because there were so few Ishnashris. Aga Khan in Zanzibar, in the issue of Farman, wrote, within 10, 20 or 30 years, the Ishnashris will be worn out. After 100 years, the Ishnashri religion will not exist at all. It will not exist in Iran either, because the religion is not based on Aql. Our religion, the Ismaili religion, is based on Aql. Well, look 100 years later, and now you see we have 144 madaris, almost 150 Khoja Shia Ishnashri Jamaats, and we have helped spread so much tabligh work that I think Aga Khan's prediction hasn't quite come true. Right, Khoja early migration. This is just important for everyone really to understand. I'm sure that our elders know, but maybe for some of the youth as well. Phase 1, the Khojas were from Sindh, Kutch and Kathiawar. So we have Gujarati Khojas, Kutchi Khojas, etc. and Sindhi Khojas. A lot of the Sindhi Khojas happen to go to Pakistan as well. Phase 2, they moved to Bombay and Karachi. Mostly, you will see the Gujarati Khojas have moved to Mumbai. Mostly, the Sindhi Khojas moved to Karachi. Phase 3, between 750 and 1800, Khojas moved to the Iranian Coast to Yemen, Oman, Burma. I haven't had time in this particular presentation, but there are Khojas in Oman as well, and they, for one reason or another, have called themselves Lavati, rather than Khoja. But I haven't had time to go into the detail of why they have done that. Phase 4, between 1820 and 1860, Khojas went to Zanzibar. That was the first main destination. In 1860 to Mozambique and Madagascar. The Madagascar part, I just want to take the mick out of my wife. They didn't aim to go to Madagascar. They aimed to go to East Africa, but there were navigational issues in all the ships and the storms as well that took place in the Mozambique Channel, so they ended up at Madagascar. They hadn't intended to go there. That was just another accident. And in phase 6 to East Africa. In East Africa, they settled from Bagamoyo, Lamu, etc., etc. So Zanzibar, the early days, very briefly, Zanzibar was the main place of destination between 1840 and 1860. And not only did the Khojas go, but other Luanas, other Hindus, other religions as well from India. So you have Khoja, Bora, Memon, Kumbur, Kachi, Badala, Bhatia, Luana, Shah, Parsis as well. Even some Parsis had gone as well to Zanzibar. Just in that, you can see 1820, there were 450 Khojas sending the dason, and as time went by, they didn't want to pay this anymore. Some critics even say that Khoja Ismaili to Khoja Ishnashri happened because they didn't want to pay the dason. So a lot of people still say that today. 1838, our Khoja Jamaat Khana, the Ismaili Jamaat Khana was built. In 1844, there was another Shia center there called Matam Bahraini. Things were a little bit easier for the Shias in Zanzibar because of the help and support given to them from Matam Bahraini and other communities there. Right, early Khoja Shia Ishnashri mosques. We have Nossi Bay in Madagascar in 1865. Quwwatul Islam 1877, Bagamoyo 1889, Karachi and Mumbai 1892, and Mumbai is 1901. Now this was the registration of the mosque, or the creation of the mosque. It doesn't mean the community was there. Most of the majalis, like when people came to Birmingham or other cities, was done at home. Later on they built mosques. So although it looks like Nossi Bay was the first destination, actually Khojas had come to Zanzibar a lot earlier. You can see there where Quwwatul Islam is in Zanzibar, that was built in 1877, and Hujjatul Islam at 1898. And of course, while this also happened, Khojas even spread within India as well. So, Khoja Shia Ishnashri Madhab spread within India as well. So the Madhab spread within Kutch, Kathiawar, Sindh, East Africa and India Ocean Islands. I just thought I'd give you a clip of Mumbai Mosque. It's in the Palagali area. On the left, you have the view of the Khoja Shia Ishnashri Mosque in Palagali, 1901. If you go, you will see very close by the Sunni Barbaya Mosque and also the Jamaat Khana as well. They're all within the same vicinity as well. And on the right is the internal view of the inside of the mosque called the Sahan. Right. My dear elders, brothers and sisters, as you can see, our history is only 100 years old, only 150 years old. Very recently, only 6 generations ago, we were Satpand religion, or Aga Khan Satpand, and even Hindu to many extent as well. The question is, how much change has occurred over a small amount of time, and how fortunate really are we to focus this Jafari madhab? The journey of faith has happened because of some key factors. Number one, whether you call it destiny or luck or the answering of the Prophet's prayer to Bibi Fatima, the fact in Karbala, Nur Muhammad and Dewji Jamal met Mullah Qadir Hussain, and the fact number 2, that Mullah Qadir Hussain was persuaded by Ayatollah Mazandarani to go to Bombay and to preach. That is the key moment that made us that allowed us to become Khoja Shia Ishnashris. And that is why Khojas are said to have a double affinity to Karbala and a double affinity to the institution of Marja'iyah. Double affinity. 1, because we have to follow the Marja. 2, because without them we would still be either Satpan or Ismaili or whatever. Number 3, the third critical factor is the continual persistence, the unrelenting dedication and the unending commitment to his mission by Mullah Qadir Hussain Karbalai. To him we are eternally thankful. And lastly, we are thankful to those pioneering Khojas like Dewji Jamal, like Khalfan Ratansi, like Haji Naji, who put their wealth and some of them even their life to make sure we became Shia Ishnashris. For this to happen, much like the spread of Islam, 2 things are needed. 1, the sacrifice of wealth, and 2, the blood as well, sadly and unfortunately. Without this, we wouldn't be in this Imam Barqa today. When we learn of the struggles of those who brought us this Khoja Shia Ishnashri faith, including the struggle of Mullah Qadir Hussain, we see the extent to which to which they had brought us towards the A'immah Tahirin. Despite all the boycotts, social, economic, the threat on their lives, they still continued. And when we look to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, we see their struggles. We cannot but deeply appreciate the sacrifices of those in Karbala, particularly Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. She has so many titles. She is known as Alimul Ghayra Muallima, Al-Akila, Al-Alima, Al-Kamila, As-Siddiqa. But the title that strikes us most in our heart is the title Ummul Masaib, Mother of Misfortunes. The question is, why do the Imma, and why does history call her Ummul Masaib? And when you think and when you reflect, maybe it is because nobody has seen as much misfortune as tragedy as Bibi Zainab herself. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because she witnessed the death of the Prophet of Islam at the age of 4. And then she saw the immediate disintegration of the Muslims. Maybe because at a young and tender age, she watched the rights of her father taken away, and then the rights of her mother. Maybe because she saw the humiliation of her mother, Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayhi, on the issue of Fadak, and the fact that the Muslims, only a few months after the Prophet had gone, had begun to humiliate her mother. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because she saw the brutal martyrdom of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam, only a few months after the Prophet's death. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because she saw the poisoning of Imam Hassan by his own wife on the instructions of Muawiyah, the fact that all his insides had come out. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because even after the Imam Hassan had died, arrows had come on his janazah. Even after his death, they didn't allow him any peace. Maybe she is called Ummul Masaib because she saw the pain in the eyes of Imam Hussein when he was betrayed by the Kufians. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because she witnessed Karbala firsthand. She saw the martyrdom of the supporters of Habib ibn Mazahir and other supporters of Imam Hussein. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because she saw the thirst of the young of Karbala. Maybe she is called Ummul Masaib because she saw the martyrdom of her own children, Own and Muhammad, and the fact that she was not able to grieve for them until she had reached Medina. Maybe she is called Ummul Masaib because she saw the cut hands of Abbas and the fact that he could not fulfill his promise to Bibi Sakina. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because of the boy that she had brought up, Akbar, and the fact that a spear had pierced his chest, and the fact that Imam Hussein wasn't able, even though being the son of Imam Ali, wasn't able to pull that out. Maybe she's called Ummul Masaib because she saw an arrow go into the neck of Asghar, or maybe because on Tilla Zainabiyya she witnessed the beheading of Imam Hussein. Maybe she is called Ummul Masaib because even after Ashura, there was the destruction of Sham and Ghariba. There was the journey to Kufa, the journey from Kufa to Sham. Maybe she is called Ummul Masaib because of the trials and tribulations and the persecution that she faced in Sham. Or maybe because she could not come back with Bibi Sakina. We don't know why Bibi Zainab is called Ummul Masaib. But the reason is because nobody can be argued has suffered as much as Bibi Zainab. Until today, her place continues to suffer. And yet, even with the suffering, she remained loyal to her faith, strong, and thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us end by remembering Bibi Zainab and remembering all those who have striven to give us this Jafari madhab, be they Mullah Qadir Hussain Karbalai or Haji Naji or various other pioneering Khojas. Even in recent history, people like Marhum Mullah Asghar Ali M.M. Jafar and others with the Surah Fatiha.